What's up, guys, and welcome back to Fight Promoter University. This is Money Fights, where we talk about the business behind combat sports, primarily boxing and MMA, and how it relates to both club shows as well as big championship pay-per-view events. So today I wanted to talk about, we were asked to talk about how many fights are typically on a card. Um, and that is going to change depending on the sport, boxing and MMA. MMA tend to have bigger cards, and also what level of the sport you're in. So big time pay-per-views, big time world championship main events. Um, you know, there's usually four that you'll see on like the pay-per-view on TV. However, there is a full list of 10 plus, 15 plus fights a lot of times on the undercards on um, ESPN Plus, or Fox, like free Fox cable leading up to it. And a lot of times the reason for that is because they have, and there's walkout fights after the main event. When there's fans in attendance after the main event, there's always a walkout fight or two as well. So and the reason they do this for the big cards, why they're so filled, is because promoters have a legal obligation to keep fighters a certain level of active based on their contract. So if they have millions of dollars supporting a big card like a pay-per-view or a big TV licensing, it's in their best interest to use those assets to keep as many fighters busy on their payroll as they possibly can. So that's why you see that. Now, so boxing on a typical card, you'll see the four main fights on TV. Then you'll see probably 10-ish leading up to that, maybe 8 to 10-ish, and then you have one or two walkout fights. So overall, you're looking at a card of 15, 20 fights potentially, and same for MMA. Yeah, MMA and boxing at the pay-per-view level tend to have roughly the same amount of fights. MMA, I think, is a little bit more. And then for club shows, it's a little bit different. So for club shows, my first club show was about 10 years ago, and I had 6 fights on, which in my opinion is the bare minimum for not for a full pro card. That's got to be the bare minimum. Pro-am, different story. But if you're going to do a pro show, I think 6, 7 really should be the minimum there. And I would behoove you, if you are just doing your first show, try and stick to that, because unless you have a lot of fighters you can get on your card that are big ticket sellers or will drum up a lot of interest and push towards that sellout for you, or at least cover their purse. Like if you're paying a fighter $1,000 to fight, if you know that they can at least cover their bout and their opponent's bout in ticket sales, then shit, have 20 fights. But I think realistically for your first couple shows, try to keep it in that 6, 7, 8 range. Now, highly experienced club show promoters who do this regularly, I think the sweet spot that you typically see is anywhere from 8 to 12 fights. Whereas MMA club shows are going to be much more. Typically, you can see 12, 15, sometimes more. And the reason for that is really just because of the length of the bouts. Boxing, a lot of the cards, you'll have a few 4-rounders, but you also have a bunch of 6, 8, 10-rounders. And MMA, they're all 3. Unless you create a belt with your promotion and have one main event that goes 5 rounds, which I would recommend you do that just for the excitement and the build-up. But so anyway, that is typically what you're going to see. In boxing, you're going to have about 6, 7, and in MMA, you're probably going to be in that 10 to 15 range realistically. Now, a lot of this is going to be based on how many tickets that you plan to sell for that event. How big's your town? How many fighters live in your area that are going to be readily available? You don't want to be in club shows. You especially want to have as many local fighters fighting on that card as possible, for various reasons, which I can talk on another video. But it's fairly obvious, right? I mean, their network, their group of friends and family is going to be close to your town of where you're putting the fight on, so it behooves you to set it up that way. So, so yeah, again, just recapping. For boxing club show, probably looking in that 6 to 8 fight range. For MMA club shows, you're probably looking in that 10 to 12 fight range. But even still, if you're trying to minimize expenses and really just get your feet wet for that first show, because you don't want to expose yourself to too much risk, and you really want to try and make like a that 10,000 plus profit in a night, start with 6 or 7 fights, even if it's boxing or MMA. Now, the only thing is, if you're gonna do that, you got to pray that you don't have early knockouts. While they are exciting, you don't want people paying $50 to come to your event and it's over in an hour and a half. Typically, you want to try and have people there for 2 to 3 hours. So otherwise, they're just going to feel like, it's going to feel like not a waste of money, but they want to get a night's worth of entertainment. You got to keep, it's a balancing act. You got to keep all that in mind. Um, but if you have any questions, leave them in the comments. I'll be happy to answer them. And I hope that was helpful. So, and let me know, are you planning to do your first show this year? And if so, give me the name of your promotion company and where you're at in your journey. So stay tuned because we're going to keep these videos coming. I really enjoy sharing some of this business information with all of you. And thanks again for watching.